Hey y'all, welcome to the second episode of the Chocast. I hope everybody's doing well. Today I'll be discussing the potential of a trade for the second pick and what it could or should include, along with the Michael Jordan news, and of course, the main talk, Scoot Henderson or Brandon Miller. I will also answer some questions towards the end of the pod that you guys sent in. Like always, thank you guys for all the continued support, but let's get right into it. Let's start off with the Michael Jordan news that surfaced early Friday morning. Obviously, Michael Jordan sold his majority stake to Gabe Plotkin and Rich Chanel. It also includes J. Cole and Eric Church, which is pretty cool. A couple singers right there, musicians. Obviously, the big shakeup. There was a report a little while ago saying MJ would only not sell the team if they got the first pick for Wemby. Obviously, that didn't happen. There was a little bit of questions like, is Scoot enough or is Miller enough to make him not sell? And obviously, it wasn't. But he still is going to have a meeting, like a sit down workout type of thing with Scoot and Brandon Miller on Monday. It sounds like that is still a go, and MJ is still holding minority stake. So that'll be interesting. He's gonna have decision making. He's still gonna have the option for that until free agency. So that'll be interesting. I don't know what decisions he'll make, but it'll be interesting to see everything he does or doesn't do, I guess, and how much it matters in the long run. Because I believe summer league is the start of like the new like ownership. That's where it should start. And as far as if I thought it was a good or bad thing to do, I think that question's easy for me. It was definitely a good thing. I mean, it's hard to say that MJ, like, it's impossible to say that MJ was a good owner. I mean, he kept the Hornets in Charlotte for many years, and I'm sure some fans are happy about it, but as far as the owner, he wasn't there that much. He was great in the community, but outside of that, there was a lot of bad decision making. I don't know if most of it was probably by him, but I mean, it's on the better things, hopefully. Hopefully, the new ownership will be good and like actually like caring, I would say, because MJ seemed to care more about his race team than the Charlotte Hornets, but he'll still hold minority stake, and obviously he sold it for around 3 billion, which is a huge investment. So shout out to him. But we're gonna move on. Enough with that talk. We're gonna move on to some more relevant information to the draft. Let's talk some Scoot and Brandon Miller. So, some interesting things I found out in this last week is how much people don't know and how much they report about it. All throughout the last 2 weeks, I've heard, oh, Brandon Miller to Charlotte, Brandon Miller to Charlotte, right? And like, oh, Scoot's like now seen as the third best prospect, and the Hornets are looking Brandon Miller. Well, then a recent report comes out a couple days ago, and it's like, oh, wow, that's not really true. They just kind of kept going on with the trend about it. And Jonathan Givony from Draft Express, he's been talking about it constantly, said that Scoot had a better workout than Brandon Miller. Brandon Miller was sick, something like that, and it was like clear that Scoot Henderson had a better workout. And the odds, like I don't really look at betting and stuff, but the odds for betting and stuff, Scoot's now seen as the number two guy instead of Miller, which it was quite different just a couple days ago. Which I mean, if you're a betting guy, I guess that plays a role, but it'll be interesting. I still think Monday will matter a lot, like I previously mentioned. But one of the key things I found out is Scoot was listed at 6'4" with shoes. You cannot pass up on Scoot Henderson. I don't care. Like I'm like we're like just pushing aside the trade talk. I'll get to that soon. But as far as the conversation between Scoot and Brandon Miller, you cannot pass up on Scoot. His athletic ability, his explosiveness. I mean, his defense for a guard position is just tremendous. I mean, his handles, his passing ability. I mean, he's got everything. He's a superstar in the making. Um, but the really cool part I find about him is he's not as bad of a shooter as everybody says. Sure, he's not a knockdown guy, but Shot 32% from three. It's not terrible. I mean, and he's only going to get better. He doesn't have a hitch in his jump shot. He can shoot mid range. Really, really good contested mid range shooter. So that's obviously a good sign for the future. Like, all I'm saying is you have a guy with that much explosiveness, that much verticality, everything. Like, he has the whole package. And he's not, like, his worst aspect is his shooting. He's not even that bad at shooting. Like, I don't see how you can pass up on that. And everybody's like, oh, he's undersized. He won't fit with LaMelo. I don't understand that take. LaMelo's played perfect off ball. He played it with Isaiah Thomas. He's played it with Terry many times. He's played with Dennis Smith just a couple times. Always works out. LaMelo can be more of a shooter. You can use it as an off ball threat. It makes him like a multi threat. And Scoot doesn't have to have the ball in his hands. He's a good cutter and stuff. So I don't see the argument there about how he's not a good fit. I mean, is he a good fit in Portland with Dame? No. Not no, but like, is not a better fit. You know what I'm saying? That's my point. Like anywhere he could go, like say Detroit, Kate Cunningham. I mean, it's just like Houston. You got Jalen Green and Kevin Porter. It's just it's like you gotta take best available, and he's not even a bad fit. I don't see why you want to take him. But talking about Brandon Miller, good player. Don't get me wrong. He's gonna be a good player in the league. I don't know if he's gonna be a superstar, but he could definitely be a star. He's definitely got some Paul George in him. Ironically, a little bit of Brandon Ingram. But I I feel like if the Hornets took him, I would be upset, and I feel like the fan base would be upset because you had a player that could be a cornerstone of your franchise sitting there waiting, and you took Brandon Miller. And I'm not saying Brandon Miller's a bad player. He's gonna be a good player wherever he goes, Portland, wherever. But all I'm saying is Scoot is the real deal. And for me to say he's the real deal, I'm always skittish on guys, but for me to say he's the real deal, he's the real deal. That's all I'm saying. I'm full Scoot. I think the fan base should be full Scoot, and I hope the ownership, whoever it is, I think it's MJ and Mitch, obviously he's still there. I hope they make the right decision. But I'm gonna let that be my moving point, and we're gonna talk about what gets really interesting, and that's this trade talk. So obviously came out with a report about the Pelicans wanting to move up to the top three to get Scoot Henderson, which makes sense. They don't have a point guard. They need a point guard, and he'd be a great fit for the Pelicans. You don't want to have CJ running the point, but this leads to the point: should the Hornets try to trade that number two pick for the Pelicans? And you look at guys that they have, and they have a lot of options here. But the Hornets have they have all the leverage. That's what I was trying to get at. They have all the leverage in this potential deal to where they can try to ask for anything. And it came out with a report that they'd rather have Brandon Ingram than Zion, which I'm fully with. I agree. Because Zion, if you look at it, has only played in 90 games since 2020, 2021. Ingram hasn't done much better, but obviously significant 161 games played since 2020, 2021. So that's a 71 game difference between the two in the same time span. And for Zion, you're almost playing one season in three. That's just not a good look. But I would say if I'm the Hornets, if they're offering Zion, I want Trey Murphy. Give me Trey Murphy. That's if I'm Mitch, MJ, whoever it is, give me Trey Murphy too. And give me a first rounder because Hornets have all the leverage, right? And Trey Murphy, if they offer Trey Murphy Zion in the first pick, like the 14th pick this year, and obviously the Hornets are gonna have to trade Hayward. It only just makes sense with the contracts and stuff. They might have to include like another player, maybe Cody Martin or something. But you get Trey Murphy, 22 years old. He has a chance to be a significant player for the Pelicans if they chose not to trade him. but 48.4% from the field and 40% from three at 22 years old. If you could get a player like that with Zion and Zion stays healthy, I don't think you can pass it up. There's just no way. But that's not my. I'm still skittish on Zion, and I don't think they're trading Trey Murphy. There's no way. I think it's unlikely. But a more likely package, if they're willing to trade Brandon Ingram, which I'm not sure they are. I haven't heard a report really saying the Pelicans are willing to trade Brandon Ingram because he's simply the reason they made the play in. I mean, he was averaging around 27 points a game for a couple of months, a month and a half. He was balling out, and he's a star. Like he probably superstar. And a lot of people underrate Brandon Ingram just because he hasn't really won yet. But to be fair, he hasn't really had the squad because you look at the years Zion goes missing. It's like trying to find Waldo. Where's Zion? But I don't know. It's just a tricky situation. And I mean, you look at Ingram's contract, 2 years left, 33 mil next year. That's gonna be a lot for the Hornets to pay. 36 after. Two. I know I'm already saying like I'm already like putting hypotheticals, but that's a little worrisome. You're trading Scoot or Miller. Just look at it and you're like, I'm trading a potential young player that I could have for 5 to 10 years for a guy that's only going to be here 2 years. And how much is how much are the Hornets going to win in that time frame? So that's also something you got to look at. I mean, you would hope Brandon Ingram would resign, but do you have the money to do so? Because you know LaMelo's going to want to get his super max 5 year 210 mil. Do you have the money? You know, Miles going to resign. So that's my question. Say they were to get Brandon Ingram in a deal. You're like, first of all, is he going to play? And second of all, is he going to resign? Like, he is a Hornets native, but is he still going to want to resign? I don't know. So is it really worth those 2 years? That's a tricky question. Now, if you add Herb Jones in the deal, and a first or two, now we're talking, right? That's a good deal. If I'm Mitch, MJ, I definitely look at Ingram healthy with the whole Hornet squad. That's a really solid, I think, top 5 or 6 team in the East. I mean, without injuries, which seem to happen a lot with the Hornets. But to end this little thing here, I would say the only deal I would really accept is Ingram, Herb Jones, and a first or two, or Zion, Trey Murphy, and the 14th pick. Because the reason I didn't mention Trey Murphy with Ingram is I just don't think they would trade two of their most reliable, like scoring guys, young guys, because Ingram's still young, like for just one player. Like the Hornets would have to do something. They'd have to, they'd have to add like Rozier and I hope not Mark Williams. So that's something I don't really hope would happen. So it's just a lot of different variables, and if I'm the Hornets, it might be easy. Just take Scoot at two and don't look back. That's how I would look at it. But there is one more topic debate I have, and it's what exactly will the Hornets do with their other 4 picks? They have the 27th pick, obviously still in the first round, from the Nuggets, along with 3 seconds at picks 34, 39, and 41. Now, I have not particularly scouted any of these guys in this range, but I would say I think it's easy. But what will Mitch do? Here's what I would do. 27th pick, 34th pick, trade up. Get like 20 range at least. It's easy. Somebody will want 27, 34. And then 39, 41, you could trade up to like 34, like or 35, somewhere like that. You literally just trade up a couple picks. It just works out perfectly. You really only need 2 or 3 picks. And maybe you could just trade, maybe you only need 1 second. Maybe you could trade two or three on for a player or something like that. I think it would really blow my mind if Mitch used all 4 of these picks, or all 5, I guess, if you count second. It would blow my mind. Like, there's just not enough roster space. And if you're trying to actually win games, which I hope that's what we're trying to do as like a fan and stuff, but I don't know. It's going to be a tricky situation. I think a lot of people forget the draft capital we do have in this range. So that will definitely be a topic debate. And I think a lot of people are forgetting that the Hornets could improve easily in the second round. Look at what they've done before. Jalen McDaniels, Devontae Graham, Cody Martin. I mean, the list goes on. Nick Richards. I mean, they've found some really good players in this range, and it's because of Mitch Kupchak. I mean, sure, he's made some questionable decisions before in free agency, but in the draft, I would say he's been pretty much locked in. I'm sure. I mean, the year with James Bouknight and Kai Jones. I mean, you can kind of look at that. And, people can complain, but at the time, I think those were the right picks. So I haven't seen Mitch Kupchak really last year. Sure, you could have gotten more for the Duran trade, but we're looking ahead, and hopefully Mitch and the Hornets make the decisions that need to be made for the franchise to succeed, and hopefully next season and upcoming seasons. But before I end this pod, let's answer a couple questions that y'all gave me. First one, assuming the Hornets draft Scooter Miller, do you think they'll get minutes off the rip? I think this one could be a little bit different. I think Scoot will get minutes off the rip. I mean, they're both going to get minutes off the rip. I mean, like big, big minutes. I think Scoot has the potential to start day one, but it is the Hornets. And you saw what they did with LaMelo. You saw what they did with Mark. I mean, we've seen it happen. You saw what they did with Bouknight. So it will be interesting to see if he does start day one, but I would doubt it. Maybe after a week or two. Because to be fair, it's really rare to see that happen in the league unless somebody's rebuilding. So I wouldn't be too mad, but hopefully they would do it soon. With Miller, I think it would take some time for him to start. I think he'd be like a six man for a little while. Average like 13, 14, 15 points a game, something like that. But yeah, he's a good player. I think they'll both get minutes off the rip. I think Scoot will get more. And I think Scoot has the potential to start more at the beginning of the season than Brandon Miller does. Here's another question I got. Would you trade number two for BI or just stay and pick Scoot and Miller? Well, kind of got into this earlier, but I think it might be easier and you would have to avoid all these decisions if you just took Scoot. And Scoot would be probably the best, smartest decision for the franchise, just for many reasons. Because not only is it helping your future, but you could also potentially get a better player in a couple of years and actually have that player on your team. Because with Brandon Ingram, he might be gone in 2 years. And Herb Jones only has 1 year left on his deal. So if you were to get him as well. So I would say I would stay and pick Scoot unless the Pelicans throw the absolute bag, like everything, everything, everything. Like I don't even care. Like it's Scoot or they give us the world. That's how I look at it. What do you think the Hornets should do with the other picks? Well, I also kind of got into this, but I think they should obviously move them. And I have maybe they draft two to three picks instead of five. So that's how I look at it. They can move up, get another first, get another player, or they could try to package somebody depending on who they pick, and then try to get some role guys or some vets that could play a role in the franchise and hopefully the success of the Hornets. Do you think decision making will be better under new owners? Well, I'd hope so. I don't think that would be very hard to do so. I mean, MJ set the bar pretty low. So I would hope that the owners are better decision making, have better decision making than MJ did. But, as a Hornets fan and as all people that are listening to this as Hornets fans, they know that anything can go wrong, will go wrong. What role do you expect J. Cole to have with the Hornets? Well, I don't think he'll have as big of a role as Drake does with the Raptors and how much he like means to the franchise and everybody kind of like looks at the Raptors like, "Oh yeah, Drake," but I don't think he'll have like a role like that. But I think some people like he'll be there at the games, and I think some people will be like, "Oh, look, it's J. Cole." And I mean, I think it plays a role in Dennis Smith Jr. resigning because they're really good friends and stuff. I mean, Caleb Martin's obviously locked up in Miami, but I wouldn't be surprised if eventually down the line the Martin twins came to play again together, maybe in Charlotte. But I don't think he'll have like a role as far as getting players. I mean, maybe. I mean, that'd be awesome, but I highly doubt it. I just couldn't see that happening. But I think he's gonna have a cool role with the team. I'm sure the players will like him. I can see him in the locker room, just messing around with them. But I think it's really cool with everything going on, what he's doing. And I'm excited for it. Excited for the new ownership for sure. I hope most fans are. And shout out to MJ for keeping the team in Charlotte. I'm excited for that. I think everybody is. But that's going to do it for me in the Chocast. I hope you guys enjoyed listening. And just to let y'all know, the draft is just 4 days away now. Stay ready, Buzz City. You know I have y'all covered. Y'all have a good one.